What's up guys, Bobby here from Test, and today I'm going to teach you about character deduction and message length. Ready? Let's check it out. So in this video, I'm going to teach you how the carriers deduct for messages and how many characters are deducted for special characters like squiggly lines and emojis and things of that nature. There's a lot of misconception out there that simply typing a message and hitting send is one message sent. But that's not how the carriers deduct for your messages. So let's head into the dashboard now. On the dashboard, let's head over to the send a message page. And on the send a message page, let's go ahead and just type up some message, all right? So the first thing we're gonna talk about is your standard GSM character set. That's any letter, number, symbol found on a QWERTY keyboard, all right? Imagine an old flip phone. On that flip phone, you had the letters, numbers, and you could shift to get some symbols, and that was it. Those were GSM characters. Those were all the characters you could send in an SMS message back in the day. Things have evolved a little bit. You have emojis, you have different encoding methods for special characters, and we're gonna talk about that here a little bit in the message deduction and character length, okay? So your first type of message you can send is a standard SMS. All right, now inside the US, the max length for a SMS message is 160 characters. Okay, so just letters, numbers, and symbols found on a QWERTY keyboard. But what about emojis? What about pictures and things of that nature? We'll get to that in a second, all right? So let's type up a message here and I'll show you what it looks like when we hit 160. All right, so I'm gonna paste in a message. And right now, I have 160 characters used, but watch what happens once I hit 161. I'm gonna add a space. A space is a character. Bam. Now it's gonna deduct 2, and you'll notice that my message length is not 960. Okay, 960 would be essentially 6 text messages in length, 160 times 6, all right? Now every 160 characters deducts 7 characters at the beginning. To explain this, I'm gonna show you a little graph. Now to help me explain how message deduction works, I have this handy little tool here. And you'll notice that I have a message pasted in here that is 160 characters long, all right? So we can see here characters in SMS, 160, characters used, 160. If we hit space, that's gonna add a character. And what I want you to notice is that when you go beyond 160 characters in your first message, the carriers are going to deduct 7 characters from every message beyond that if you go beyond 160. The reason being is they have this thing called a user-defined header. It concatenates your messages so that they're delivered as one fluent long message. And what a lot of people don't know is that the carriers are taking up message length so that they can encode the message so that they can put it together properly and deliver it properly to tell your handset that, hey, it needs to be displayed as one message. Now, there's a lot of services out there that don't do this and don't know it. Back in the day, you might have sent a message to your friend that was more than 160, and you might have saw 1 of 2 and 2 of 2, or it could have been out of order. There's a lot of services that still do this. But the way that we have this process working here at Text is we concatenate each message, but it's important to note that every message beyond 160, if it's just a GSM standard SMS, is going to be less 7 characters. Now you don't see where those characters are coming from. It's just that beyond the first message, every message length is going to be considered 153, all right, all the way up to 918. So back on the screen here, when we go ahead and add another character and we go to 161, boom, automatically you'll notice that 7 characters at the beginning of our message are used for encoding purposes to concatenate the message. And if we paste in another message here, okay, you'll notice that I'm now down to the 3rd message, okay? Because 7 characters are taken up here for the first 160, 7 characters are taken up here for the next 160, and it's forced us into a 3rd message. The benefit here is that this entire message is going to be delivered as one fluent long message. So if you are simply typing up SMS, your standard GSM characters, letters, numbers, and symbols found on a QWERTY keyboard, that's fine, all right? It's gonna be in 153 character chunks, all right? So that's your standard SMS deduction. Now let's talk about special characters, okay? Special characters are basically they're an extension of the QWERTY keyboard. So I have a list here. Typically these are called escape characters. Now these characters are they're going to be in addition to your standard GSM, but they're going to deduct 2 characters per special character, per escape character. All right. So let's take one of these characters down here, this little squiggly line, and let's add it to our message. Let's drop it down to 160 again. So I'm going to take this message here and I'm going to drop it down 2 characters. All right, you can see here my characters used are down to 158. We're still in 7-bit encoding, which is just your normal GSM character set. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna paste that special character here. Watch what happens to the character used on the right side. Watch, we're gonna paste it. It used 2 characters. All right, the reason being is that this is an escape character. It's a special character that's an extension off the normal GSM character set. The carriers deduct 2 characters per escape character. It's important to know that because you might be wondering, why are these special characters being deducted 2 every time I paste one in? That's how the carriers deduct. We talked about message length and how concatenation works. We've talked about special characters or escape characters and how they deduct 2 per character. Let's talk about emojis real quick, and then we'll get into picture messaging. So emojis are a little bit different than your standard 7-bit character set, okay? So you're gonna see right here, this is the GSM, and then right here, these are the escape characters. And let's talk about the ones that are considered non-GSM characters. They're gonna be forced from our standard GSM encoding to Unicode. And that's going to deduct more and do something a little bit different for the message length. So let's go back up here. I'm gonna snag an emoji. I'm gonna paste it here. And what you're gonna notice is immediately my character length was chopped down to 67. When you paste in an emoji, a non-GSM and non-escape character, such as this, the carriers deduct in 70 character chunks. So immediately your message is gonna be chopped down to 70 characters, and every 70 characters is gonna count as 1 SMS. You'll also notice something else. Every non-GSM and non-escape character, such as an emoji, is gonna deduct 2 characters per emoji. It also switches the encoding from 7-bit encoding to Unicode. And that doesn't mean anything to you, it's just a different way the message is encoded to the carriers and then to your handset. So watch, when I paste in another emoji here, it's going to take away 2 characters. All right, 164. Now let's drop it down just to a single text message so you guys can see this a little bit better. All right, we're at 56, it's still 1 text message. We're gonna type a little bit more, or we could type in another emoji. It's gonna use 2 characters, 2, boom. That's the end of our first text message when you're sending a message with emojis with no picture. So watch, I'm gonna hit paste one more time, and now the carriers are dropping your message length down to 67. Okay, so your first one's gonna be dropped down to 67, your next one's gonna be dropped down to 67 characters per chunk. Because now they have to not only use Unicode, but they have to use the user-defined header to concatenate the message at the same time. Okay, and that's gonna deliver your messages in one fluent long message. So if you add anything in here, such as a special character, like an escape character, or an additional emoji, it's gonna deduct 2 characters per. All right, so those were basic emojis, all right? Your basic emoji set that everybody's used to, typically 2 characters per emoji. But let's talk about what I call combination emojis. These are emojis that are made up of multiple emojis together, and they take more bits to encode than your typical emoji that is just a smiley face. Let's go into the dashboard. I'm gonna show you a quick example. All right, so back on the dashboard, let's head over to the send a message page, and I have some emojis that I've copied, all right? And you can see that they'll be inside our library as well. All right, so we have the 2-person emoji, the 3-person emoji, and the 4-person emoji, and we're using 25 characters. Well, wait a second, there's only 3 emojis there. So what I wanna show you here is what happens when you use the 2-person emoji and explain to you what's really going on here when it's encoded, all right? So what you see here on the screen is actually 2 emojis with the combination of hair and clothes being overlaid that emoji. So we know that one emoji is typically 2 characters, and then the second one 2 characters, and then we have the shirts that go over it, which we would kind of guess that another character is being used to encode the clothing. All right, so this emoji here uses 5 characters. Now, watch when we add back and we just have our 3-person emoji. This one is using 9 characters. We have 3 emoji faces, all right, 2, 4, 6, and then we have a blue and a red shirt, all right? So kind of implies that the more complex the emoji is, the more characters the carriers will deduct. So those are combination emojis, all right? And you can apply that to any emoji that's not your standard smiley face, happy face, the normal ones that you're used to, all right? You'll see that when you copy one of those emojis from the library or any other emoji library out there, that they may use up more characters to encode. Let's talk about picture messaging, all right? Let's go back into the dashboard now. Now, when you send a multimedia service message, you have up to 1,600 characters in length to compose your content. And the best part about that is if you add an emoji, it doesn't split into 70 character chunks. It just deducts 2 characters from that 1,600 length that you have available. So let's check that out. So let's drop it back down to 160 characters. Let's add a picture first. Now, when you add a picture, it's going to convert from SMS from your standard 7-bit GSM encoding to multimedia service encoding. And this is going to allow you to add pictures, animated GIFs, PNGs, JPEGs, all that good stuff. And the best part about it is you can include content up to 1,600 characters in length. Now, when you add an escape character and an emoji, it does deduct 2 characters per those types of characters. So that's important to note. So when we add an emoji in here, you'll notice it goes from 160 to 162, and every emoji you add deducts 2 characters. Even if you add an escape character, it's only going to deduct 2 characters, but this still counts as 1 MMS with 1,600 characters total you can type in there with your picture. All right, so instead of typing a huge long message with 1 emoji in it, you might as well add a picture and do as many emojis as you want for the deduction of a picture instead of a SMS with emojis and escape characters in it. Now, another question I get is, how many text messages can I fit in a MMS message? Well, if you divide, let's say 160 by 1,600, that's 10 text messages in length. All right, so for the deduction of 3 messages per person, you can compose an MMS with emojis, escape characters, a picture, and a whole bunch of content and save a ton of deduction. So the next thing I want to talk about is copying and pasting content from a third-party application or anything outside of the message box. Now, the tricky part about this is you don't know if these other applications are using different forms of encoding for their characters, their spacing, and all that. So when you copy content from an application like Microsoft Word or another online application, you may be pasting hidden code that is going to require more bits to encode it in an SMS message. All right, so here's an example. Let's go into the dashboard. And on the dashboard, you're going to see I have a message here that's 160 characters, just plain text. I found this little bold font generator, and I'm going to copy and paste the font on the right side into Slick Text, and let's watch and see what happens. All right, same message, same amount of characters, but when I paste it in there, it's using 5 times the amount of characters. All right, because the encoding they use to make that font bold, you can't see it, but it's requiring more bits to encode it and present it to the user on their handset in that bold font. Not everything that you copy and paste from other applications, like from Word, if you like to type from Word and copy and paste into Slick Text, are going to be acceptable as a single character deduction. All right, so be very careful when you're copying and pasting from other applications. As a best practice, always type up your message inside the send a message box so you know you're just typing simple characters. Or if you don't care and you want to bold it, go ahead and use the additional characters. And that's it, guys. That's how the carriers deduct for message length and special characters, emojis, non-GSM. Should you guys have any questions, don't hesitate to reach out to us, 1-800-688-6290, or email us info@slicktext.com. Thanks for watching, guys, and we'll catch you in the next one.